haven't been alive in a while, but I am on my way to court for a domestic violence case. And client's a little nervous, but it's just a preliminary hearing. I just took over the case. So I drafted a substitution of counsel and I sent it to the public defender's office, but no response. The reason I was hired by this particular client is because when they called the public defender, there was no response. And the case is already set for a calendar call, which is sort of ridiculous. Case is only, I don't know, maybe 3 months old. It's a case that had someone contacted case filing prior to and explained the circumstances, probably a good chance the case would have gone away. But now we are looking at figuring out some sort of diversion or going to trial, because there is a question of fact. And anytime there is a jury trial, it is based on a question of fact. Now I'm driving in the wife's car today, and we took it to the dealer last week because we heard a little knocking. I still hear the knocking, but they said they put a mechanic on it and they don't hear the knocking. I don't know what it is. It sounds like something's loose under the car. But anyway, back to law. Today I'm gonna go to the hearing, substitute as attorney of counsel, or counsel of record, and then I'm going to continue the case, ask for a case disposition in 45 days, and then go back to the office, work on an expungement, and reach out to a couple of prosecutors on a case, on several cases, and then I need to draft a letter for an insurance company. I need to review a demand on a slip and fall case. And my wife's taking my truck to bring our dog to the vet for his eye for the second visit. And that's what's going on. I was watching Nate the lawyer this morning. There's a couple other attorneys I watch. I've been checking out Nate the lawyer. I like him probably the best. Just a regular guy doing law. And then there's a civil guy or civil attorney. I've watched a DUI attorney guy a few times. And then I started watching the board certified criminal guy. I forget where he's located. His son does all the video work. Rivers. Oh, that's bright. And it's weird, I look at what a lot of people are doing, and a lot of people talk about what's in the news the most. And I don't know, I guess that's cool, but not every case is in the news. I've had a bunch of cases in the news, and those are the ones that I don't really talk about because there's confidentiality issues. I tend to talk about cases I've seen or heard about, but not necessarily very important cases. The goal of my channel, I think, is really to tell you a little bit about the law and the everyday workings of it. So when someone writes in and says, hey, how does this work? I have a violation of probation in one county, but I picked up a new arrest in another county. Well, it's important on a case like that you have your attorney either handle both cases, or that your attorney coordinates with the other attorney in the other jurisdiction. Otherwise, you'll get slammed, meaning you may do a sentence on the VOP and then do a sentence. After you've completed that sentence, they'll ship you butt to where you had the violation, where you had the new case, and you'll do more time. So kind of like little tidbits. A video that I think I'm going to make, I don't know, this weekend, is how to get into the clerk of court system and how to look up your cases. And the reason I say that is because although I take the time to explain it, I find myself explaining it a lot. Each county in Florida has a clerk of court, and there's a process to get in, look at your case, look at other people's cases. And I think that that's, although it's fairly simple, a lot of people struggle with it because they don't do it every day. So I'm going to do a video about accessing probably Palm Beach County, Broward County, Miami-Dade, my least favorite, Martin and St. Lucie. And I'll probably just use a Zoom, record my screen and do it that way. I haven't had a chance to get with Mario. I've made some videos, but they need to be edited. Some videos I just shoot, put up. It is what it is, non-scripted. But Mario, my video guy, he's awesome. He really has a knack, and he's able to shorten down my long-windedness. So, and puts little video clips in and still pictures, and kind of makes it a little bit user-friendly for you viewers. But anyway, I'm always thinking about various issues that come up and what's important. A lot of calls on people who have convictions on their record and they're unable to seal or expunge. So I think it's really important that the viewer knows that if they get a case, they don't want a time served sentence. Time served doesn't help you. Time served usually means if it's in Florida, it's going to stay on your record for the rest of your life. You can't seal it, you can't expunge it, so you don't want that. If you have a domestic case, you really want to go out of your way to see if the state will change the charge to a non-domestic case so that you can move on. Because if you have a domestic case, again, you can't seal it, you can't expunge it. Racing cases, Brevard County just called me. Why? Because I filed that emergency motion yesterday. No one's paying attention to me. Yep, that's probably why. But they just hung up. 7:55. Wow, I didn't know they worked over there. Kind of weird. And if you guys, if there's some issue or topic that you're interested in hearing about, by all means, shoot me a message on YouTube and leave a comment. And if it's something I'm passionate about, know about, I'll do my best to give an answer. And that includes the personal injury cases. I find generally that people are more interested in the criminal cases than they are the personal injury cases. The personal injury cases, are based on negligence, and it's nobody else's fault. Well, it's not the victim's fault, right? And I guess that goes for criminal, but personal injury, someone's driving to work and someone blows a red light or is driving like an idiot, crashes into them, and causes a significant injury. Quite frankly, I don't like taking the cases that are just soft tissue injury. I look at cases that are more serious, where maybe surgery is required or there's just some sort of permanent injury. I always laugh about the guy that called me in a personal injury case. He worked at he was a valet guy, and he called me up and says, "Hey, I work as a valet," and I'm thinking he got hit by a car. And he tells me, "No, my boss makes me run from car to car. My back's killing me. Do I got a case?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think you got a case." "No, you don't have a case, silly." I'm getting a lot of calls. I mean, I can't tell you 5, 10, 20 calls a week on police misconduct, police brutality. I don't do it. I don't know quite frankly, I don't know any attorneys that do it, besides that civil guy on YouTube. And I think he's out of Illinois, but he's originally from Florida. So I may reach out to that guy, because if any case has substance, maybe he would take it on. He seems pretty knowledgeable. He seems like he brings a lot of lawsuits on that kind of stuff. But I get calls, and listen, if someone doesn't read you Miranda rights, it does not mean that they did something wrong. All that means is, if you gave a statement, if they asked you questions, that those questions and a motion to suppress would likely be thrown out, suppressed as fruits of the poisonous tree. But I get that call all the time. I'm like, hey folks, the movies are lying to you. You don't have to be read your rights unless they are questioning you. If they are questioning you, if they pull you over for something, they smell marijuana, they search your car, they find a pipe, they find a bunch of drugs, they don't need to ask any questions. So no Miranda is needed. But apparently everyone wants to sue the police. I don't know, maybe one day, if I took it on with another attorney, knew what he or she was doing, I'd probably get into it. Because I'm always amazed of the cases that I hear that there's nothing. People who I had one guy years ago in Miami, and I mean, they broke his leg, and then they put him in the jail, and his foot was like standing out to the side. And I said to the judge, like, this guy needs medical condition. He needs medical treatment. And she looks and is like, oh my God. And she can write an order, but she can only recommend that the jail. But here's the key to that, folks, right? If you're hurt and you're in jail, sure, the judge can recommend, but the judge can also let you out so you can go to a doctor, right? Now, depends on the charges, but that judge can reduce your bond, they can ROR you, but obviously it depends on the severity of the case. If you're in there on a murder charge, or attempted murder, or burg bat, or arson, some rape, child molestation, she's probably not gonna, he or she's not going to let you out. And you hope that the medical services are adequate in the jail. I don't know what's adequate in the jail. What's a new topic that I need to do a little research on is Illinois just passed, I think it was this week that it was implemented, the no cash bond, meaning that unless it's a crime that involves incarceration, like for instance, if it involves probation or a fine, or that's what it's likely to be, then you're just released on your own recognizance. You're let out. And there's a lot of argument for and against. I got to tell you, I think I'm against, because they're saying, well, it disproportionately keeps African Americans in jail. Okay, heard a lot about that kind of thing lately. I try not to think about it from a race perspective. I think that we should have an objective standard. I don't think that one group should be treated better than another group. And I always hear these statistics that the bond for African Americans are 30% higher than they are for their counterpart white males. And I don't know. I don't see that in my practice. I haven't seen it, and I can't say that I've looked for it, but I don't know. I've had just as many, if not more, cases with African American males or Latinos or minorities where I've had the case dismissed than any other group. So, and I don't make a race argument. I've come close to making a race argument, maybe once or twice, but I figured out how to handle the case in another manner. I don't believe in just pointing out race unless there's absolute. But again, this isn't a political conversation. This is in regards to bond. But what I was reading was that that's what they were saying. The reason for it was, and they talked about a gentleman who had a case, and if he would have got time served or he would have served a sentence, I think he sat in custody for like 2 or 3 years. Now, you can argue that that's a race issue. I would argue that it's a shitty attorney issue, because what is your attorney doing? Your attorney is part of the system, and your attorney should be saying, hey, let's move the case. Let's file motions to suppress, file motions to dismiss, the affidavits. And ultimately, they said in that situation, the case was ultimately dismissed after 3 years. But after the guy got out of prison, he harmed himself. He's no longer with us. He self-expired, as they say. I heard YouTube doesn't like you to use certain words, so he self-expired. And I think the family got $3 million because they said that he was so depressed because of the false arrest. And who knows whether it was a false arrest or not. Just because the state dismisses the case. I got to tell you, I've had the state dismiss a lot of cases, and the clients weren't always innocent. I mean, that's the reality. Don't think because a case is dismissed that automatically there's innocence involved. That's just hocus pocus. It's just not true. Cases get dismissed because of lack of evidence, lack of witness participation, technical arguments where people have, officers have made mistakes, and sometimes innocence, or sometimes conflicts in the evidence, which would ultimately lead to a not guilty or a hung jury. So when people call me and say, oh yeah, my case was dismissed, I'm innocent, maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, from the system's perspective, yeah, you can call that I don't know, that they weren't found innocent, the charges were just dismissed. That doesn't mean anyone evaluated the actual claim and came to a determination of innocence. It just means that for some reason the state couldn't go forward. And I think that's an important thing, because people call and they want to sue the police, or they want to sue the prosecutor's office because their case was dismissed. And I said, you understand that bringing the case, someone be arrested, you need probable cause, right? Which is a very small number if you put it into a quantitative number. I mean, it's like, it could be 10 or 15% possibility that you committed a crime, right? 10 or 15%. That's nothing. And then to be convicted of the crime, right, it's beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. That I don't know, 99%. So you could see how someone could be arrested, and then the state attorney's office, after hearing an argument from a criminal defense attorney, says, yeah, you know what? I mean, there's some doubt there. I mean, a reasonable person could definitely attribute 20%, 30%, 40%. Could be a mutual combat situation where two guys got into a fight, or a domestic violence situation between brothers and sisters or family members or whatever. So just because your case is dismissed doesn't mean you're innocent. Now, it means you're often eligible to have your case expunged, and it could mean that you have a case, but my understanding is that it's extremely rare, unless there's death or like a super, like where someone suffers a catastrophic injury, and most of the cases lack damages, the amount that can be quantitatively determined, right? So if you're arrested by police and you spend 3 nights in jail, I don't know, what are 3 nights in jail worth? That's the question of damages. And when I've spoken to various attorneys that supposedly handle 1983 cases, as they're referred to, police misconduct, violation of your rights, they often say that there's no damages. So I don't know what's needed. I'm always curious about that, but I'm busy enough trying to keep people out of custody and helping people with their personal injury cases to try to learn another area of law. But I sit, second chair, of course. If there was an attorney that, was very good with processing the paperwork and making the procedural aspects of the civil part of it, and wanted an attorney to go to trial with them, and speak to a jury, hey, I'm all about it. I'd love to do that. But otherwise, I just don't do it. I don't know why. I point out technical arguments, mistakes by the police. I point out various forms of corruption. Corruption could be, I saw a case recently, right? Mind-blowing. Guy gets pulled over. Look, you can't even imagine this stuff, right? A guy is up early and he's going to work, and it's very early in the morning, so we're talking like 4 a.m. And he approaches a stop sign, he comes to a stop, and he sees some police officers on the street, right? Their cars are on the street in where he's about to go. And he waits because he doesn't know what they're doing. Obviously, something's going on, and he doesn't want to come into a crime scene or interfere with whatever they're doing, so he just waits. And then the police officer puts a light on him, kind of like flashes the guy, and he just waits because he doesn't know what they're doing. The officers drive away, they make a left turn, the gentleman turns right, and then the police U-turn and come back and pull him over, saying that his tag light is out, that one of his tail lights are out. And they don't point it out on video. You don't see the tail light out like on the video, but it's a quick, they're walking by and you're trying to look, it's hard to determine whether any tail light's out, but they don't video it or anything. And then, the person says, hey, why are you pulling me over? And the cop says, get out of the car. And the cop claims that there is marijuana residue all over the car, on the dash, on the floor, right? He doesn't smell it, but he says, hey, is that shake? And, the guy doesn't, know what they're talking about. And then the cop says, oh, there's shake everywhere. Yet in the police report, there's no collection of the marijuana that's all over the car. And ultimately what they did was they charged the guy with resisting without violence because he questioned the officer when he was exiting, when he was told to exit the car. And one officer says to him, hey, you have to get out of the car. We're allowed to make you get out of the car. If you don't get out of the car, you'll be arrested. He goes, okay. So he gets out of the car. And then the initial cop, the instigator, the arresting officer, the aggressor, the guy that should not be a cop, he arrests the guy. The guy got out, but when he's going, why are you I don't understand. Why are you pulling me over? And the cop's like, your light's out. And he's like, what light? That kind of thing. And then the cop's like, well, you have weed all in your car. And he's like, could you show me? I don't, because he doesn't smoke weed. So does it happen? Now, could that be a race issue? Could be. Could it be an overly aggressive cop who, and when I saw that case, what I instantly thought about was when I was in high school, this is going back a long time, but there was a nurse, and I'm sure you guys have heard about this, and there's been movies about it, where a nurse will, a bad nurse, we're talking 1 in a billion, right? A lot of awesome nurses out there. But a mentally ill nurse that, and I can't remember the movie, they spike the bag, right? The IV bag. And every time, not every time, but when they're on their shift, the person goes into cardiac arrest, and then they are the hero nurse that resuscitates them and brings them, back to life. And hey, but they realize that there's a pattern and how many, on a daily, note, how many lives does a nurse save? I don't know. Could be 1, could be none, right? That kind of thing. but that nurse was saving a bunch. There have been cops that I've read about, and granted, I've seen news stories or videos or things on YouTube where they've made arrests. And there was a guy, and I don't remember where the case was, but there was a guy that was, they were going, man, he's just, he's got like a canine nose. And what that guy was doing was planting drugs in people's cars. And you probably saw it on 60 Minutes. And that officer went to prison, but they finally caught him. He was planting drugs in people's cars. Now, I get those calls all the time. Someone planted 20 years, never seen it. Never have had a case where an officer has planted drugs. Have I heard of it? Yes. But just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But I don't think that it's a high percentage. I don't think that there's a bunch of rogue officers out there just, carrying drugs on them and planting it in my client's car. Certainly possible. And why is it possible? Because it's happened. It's actually happened. And people have been arrested. People have pled guilty. And then when that officer has been found out, what happens? They go back and, the people read about it and they reach out to attorneys and they file motions to vacate their pleas or their trial verdicts, because obviously now the officer is on the Brady list, right? The officer is a bad cop. And in Broward County, years ago, I would get a copy of the Brady list all the time. I haven't had a case in a while where there was, where there looked like there was some shadiness or anything of substance in Broward, where that Brady list would come about. But the state attorney is required to keep a list of when, an officer's under investigation, when an officer's been arrested, and they have to send out a notice. It's a Brady notice that alerts defense attorneys, defendants of possible issues, right? Hey, this officer's been arrested. Hey, this officer, has been arrested for police brutality or domestic violence or drug possession, that kind of thing. Because they're not really going to put an officer right on the stand when they're accused of doing something deceitful, right? Or they themselves have been arrested, or if after the investigation they've been suspended from their duties or arrested, right? Kind of hard to put that guy or gal up on the stand and have any credibility issue because you can't ask about it. In fact, officer, you've been suspended for misconduct, have you not? That's it. Yes, you may not be able to go into the misconduct depending on the judge's ruling in a motion in limine, but yeah. So a lot of those cases go away, and I've had cases where people are on the Brady list and the case goes away for that reason. Does that mean the person's innocent? Going back to how we started this. No, could be. Cop could have made a good arrest on that. Just because, you steal from Walmart on Monday doesn't mean that you steal every day of the week, right? For those that have frisky fingers. But anyway, I can't read the stuff because I'm driving and I keep the phone. It's on the stand, so I can see that people are commenting, but I don't know what you're saying, and I'll have to go back and read it. And if there's a request to talk about a particular topic, if I don't know about the topic, I'll try to research it. But I'm not gonna things that I don't know about or I haven't had cases on, unless it's a very interesting topic, I probably won't address it. But I've handled almost everything criminal, so deal with a lot of different personal injury cases, from car accidents, slip and fall, dog bites, motorcycle accidents, trucking accidents, those kinds of things. One thing I noticed, and I haven't noticed this morning because I'm going to get a camera that's in the cars that records traffic. I see people driving like maniacs. I don't handle traffic tickets. If you call me and say, oh, I just got a traffic ticket, there's two great attorneys that I forward them to. In Palm Beach County, if you got a traffic ticket, I send people to Carmen Leon. Great guy, really knows his stuff. So if you have a traffic infraction, that's who I send it to, Carmen Leon. And then if it's in Broward, oh my goodness, the traffic guy, what is his name? Craig. Oh, can't even think of his name at the moment. Craig Rosenberg. Oh man, that guy's fantastic. For years, I met Craig. Should send this to Craig and Leon, Carmen. I met my first day of working as a criminal defense attorney. The first week, I was working for some guys, and they handed me some tickets and said, "Go." Didn't explain how to do it, so just said, "Yeah, go figure it out." And of course, they don't teach you anything in law school about traffic tickets or the technical arguments. I don't know anything about the statute. So I had one ticket. The first day they gave me one ticket. And I walk into court, and Craig Rosenberg in Hollywood, Florida, probably had, I'm not even joking, he probably had like close to 1,000 tickets, right? And the judge says, "Sir," like, because he doesn't know who I am. It was like my first week on the job, right? He goes, "You have some?" Yeah, let this. Well, he's got a lot. He's going to be here for a while. No problem. And I sat and listened to Craig Rosenberg, make arguments to the court, technical arguments on dismissing tickets. And there was like a break because he was up there so long, and I walked over. I was like, "Hey man, you look at this ticket?" He goes, "Yeah, motion to dismiss based on, incorrect subsection of the statute." And so the judge came in and he goes, "Get and go." So I said, "Good afternoon, Judge Roger Foley on behalf of," he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Any motions?" I go, "Yeah, motion to dismiss based on failure to put the correct subsection." He goes, "That's correct, granted." And after that, I took Craig Rosenberg to lunch a few times and send him, anytime someone calls, that's who I refer to. I send out tickets to Craig Rosenberg and Carmen Leon here in Palm Beach. Both really nice guys, really know their stuff. And I feel like the defense bar doesn't shout out enough guys. Neither one of them, to my understanding, does, some of the heavy stuff. But man, can they figure out ways to get tickets dismissed? And traffic criminal, and they know all the motions and the technical arguments, and it really is a craft. And my understanding is they both do very well with that. So anyway, shout out to those two guys. I'll read the comments later, and you guys have a great day. What's today? Is today Thursday? No, today's Friday. Today's Friday. I hope you guys have a great weekend and stay safe. God bless. Bye now.